everyone, welcome back to our channel. Konnichiwa. Today we are back with a new video and we will talk about working in Japan versus working in Germany. So the reason why we want to talk about this topic is that me and Yoshi considering moving to Japan in the future, and of course we also have to work there. As an European, I have a certain standards when it comes to work in a German company, but of course I never worked in a different company rather than a German company. Also, Yoshi never worked full-time in Japan in a Japanese company because he moved to Germany and he's living and working here. So I ask myself, what are the differences if you are working in Japan versus working in Germany? And if you are searching about working in Japan or work-life balance in Japan, you will see or you will search or find pictures like this and this, or you will find stories like this. Especially this term makes me a little bit confused. So I ask myself, are all Japanese people overwork themselves, do not have a free time, or have a strong dedication to the company? Or is this just a stereotypical view of working in Japan? Let's find out if it's true and where is the difference between working in Japan and working in Germany. As I do my research when it comes to working in Japan or working in a Japanese company, I found many interesting articles and terms when it comes to working in Japan. One of them was the term salaryman. So what salaryman exactly means? Salaryman is a term that refers to a male white-collar worker in Japan who works for a corporation company and also known for the long working hours. There are also other typical characteristics, but first let's talk about the long working hours. Salarymen usually not working from 9 to 5, they are working more than 10, 12 or 14 hours in a day, and they are also working at the weekend. The next one that is very characteristic for the salaryman is the company loyalty. So loyalty to the company is very important, and many salarymen spend their entire career at one company. Next one is hierarchy and respect. Having respect or respect for supervisors is also something very important. And the last one is the uniform. So salarymen typically wear dark suits, white t-shirt, and this symbolizing their role and dedication to the company. What are the problems when it comes to salarymen? As you heard, if you are working more than 14 hours a day, you do not have a work-life balance. That means you do not have time for a personal life, for your family, and the only thing that you do is working. So doing this also brings other problems. For example, health issues. Many salarymen have health issues and also mental health problems because they have so much stress at work and they also working non-stop. So when we're talking about this brings us to the next term. The next term is Karoshi. So one of these cases that brought a lot of attention to it, especially when it comes to the term of Karoshi, is the case of Takahashi Matsuri. Who is Takahashi Matsuri? Takahashi Matsuri was a graduate from the University of Tokyo, and after that she decided to work for a company named Tetsu. Dentsu is one of the largest advertising agencies in Japan and also is known for a demanding work culture and for long hours of work. After she started working for the company, she had to overwork herself a lot. So at one point, she worked 100 hours per week. So we are talking about 100 hours per week. That's really crazy. As we mentioned in the term of salaryman, if you are working more than specific hours in a week, not only your work-life balance is under pressure, also your health. So she took her own life after 9 months of working in this company because she didn't see any other solution and didn't want to live like that. So after this case, the Japanese government tried to bring some changes. So this brings us to the next topic. How are the working standards when it comes to work in a Japanese company?
In recent years, Japan has implemented several significant changes to its labor laws, primarily aimed at improving work-life balance. Here you can see some of these changes. For example, overtime regulations. The legislation introduced a cap on overtime work. Regular employees are now limited to 45 hours of overtime per month. Also, the next one is the equal pay for equal work. That means this principle aims to eliminate disparities in treatment between regular employees and non-regular employees. Something else that is also very important is the mandatory annual leave. Employers must ensure that employees take at least 5 days of paid leave annually if they have at least 10 days of annual leave. There are also other important changes as, for example, telework and flexible work arrangements, premium wages for late night work, strengthening regulation on temporary workers, health management, and also enhancing childcare and elder care leaves.
We will talk about the working conditions in Japan versus the working conditions in Germany and where are the differences. So when it comes to the working hours per week, usually you are work for 40 hours per week spread on 5 days. But overtime work is something very usual in Japan, so many employees work between 40 and 60 hours per week. So there is also a legal limit, as we also saw, but this legal limit first letting you only work 45 hours per month. So the overwork limit is 45 hours per month. But if you have a special term in your contracts, you are able to work more than 45 hours per month. As you can see, overtime work is something very usual in Japan, and it could also be a big or a small issue, but it depends on the company that you are working. So I would say this is not the standard. In Japan, there are companies that allows you to also do the 9 to 5. And as my experience, I would say when I was in Japan, I also saw many Japanese people that are going between 5 and 6 p.m. Home and having their free time after they work. But as I told you, of course, this is not the standard. It depends on the company that you are working. The next important point is the vacation. So when I did my research, I was a little bit shocked because if you compare this to Germany, this is not enough. But let's start with the annual leave. So employees in Japan are entitled to minimum of 10 days of paid annual leave after working of 6 months. And with the number of days increasing with the so if you're working in a company, you will get more annual leaves. That means, for example, after 6.5 years of service, the entitlement can reach up to 20 days. So as I told you, this is not enough if I compare this to Germany, but we will talk about this later. The next opportunity that you have to get a little bit more free time for yourself in Japan is the public holidays. So Japan has a total of 16 public holidays, but however, companies are not required by law to give this day off. So if the company letting you know that you have to work, you have to work. So this is also not that usual in Germany. Unused vacation. This is also a very important point. So it is common for employees to not take all the entitled vacation days due to cultural pressure in Japan and the fear of bothering other colleagues. So there is a tendency also to avoid long vacations, and employees often take their leaves in a short increments. So these are also very important points. That means, for example, that many Japanese people take 2 days for a special occasion. For example, if it's a birthday or they want to spend a little bit more time with the family or something like that. But taking more than 5 days is not that usual. Also something that is very different in Germany. if you compare this to Germany, I would say there are differences when it comes to working hours and also the vacation and also the way that Germans use their vacation time. So if you are talking about the standard hour in Germany that they are working per week is typically between 35 and 14 hours per week, also spread over 5 days. Overtime working is also something that you have in Germany, is not that common compared, for example, to Japan, but you can overwork. If you overwork, you will usually get paid for that, or you can get a free day, or it depends on how many hours you work. If you work a lot, you can also get more than 1 day's free. So this is how it works in Germany. And there is also a legal limit when it comes to work in Germany. So the working time is 48 hours per week, but also here it can be extended more per week if you have this in your contract, and usually you will get paid for that. But as I also told you, you usually not overwork that much in Germany because you have the maximum of working 8 hours per week, and usually Germans not overwork themselves. But I also would say there are also companies, for example, if you're working for a company and also trading or something finance, you have to work more. But the good thing is you will get paid more, or you will get a free time. The vacation in Germany is also a little bit higher, the vacation times that you have, if you compare this to Japan. So employees in Germany are entitled to a minimum of 20 days paid vacation, of course, per year. But usually you have more vacation time. So usually you have something between 25 and 30 days. Sometimes it could be also a little bit higher. So this is, of course, also something special. 13 days of having free time is also perfect, and they will pay you. I would say if you compare these two countries together, of course, the working environment in Germany is a little bit more chill. You have more time for yourself, and there is a work-life balance that you have in Germany. You don't have to overwork yourself, and there is no culture for that also in Germany, and you can take the full time for your vacation. Yes, so these are the pros and cons if you are working in Germany or if you are working in Japan. But as I told you, these are the standards that you have, but this standards is not for every company. There are companies in Japan that you are allowed to work also only 14 hours per week, and there are also companies in Germany that you have to overwork, or you overwork yourself because you do not have enough time. At the end, I would say it depends on what you want. So if you want to work in Japan, I don't think that you always have to overwork yourself. I don't think that this is a standard. And sometimes it's also enough to take the 10 days. But if is that enough for you, then it's totally fine. For me, I also would say if I had the opportunity to work in Japan, I would do this, even if I do not have 13 days annual leave. It's okay, I would try that. But I think there are some issues if you want to work in Japan, and I also think that Japan has to change that in the future. But this is only if I compare this to Germany. So yeah, this is what I figured out. At the end, I would work in Japan, and at least I would try that. So yes, but this is the end of the video. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up, and I would be also very happy if you also let me know how are your working experience in Japan as a Japanese or as a foreigner working in Japan. And if you like the video, give us a thumbs up and follow us, and I would say we will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye. Mata ne.